we'd like to start off the presentations today with ACES. Joachim Zell, known as Jay-Z around the business and to his friends. He's currently the VP of Technology at eFilm Deluxe, and he served on the ASC Technology Committee that defined the ACES CDL, and he's also the ACES Vice Chairman at the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences.
Thank you. Thank you, Jim. My first presentation at the Digital Cinema Society, I didn't know that it's such an exciting event, yeah. So, since my name Joachim Zell has a ch in it, my colleagues decided to call me Jay-Z. And just for this presentation, I put on a fake German accent to sound more like a technologist. It will be a technology presentation. As soon as I switch over to French, it might get creative, but we leave it here. So we don't need to read all that text there. Most interesting is the webpage name on the lower right side. So if you go to the ACES Central web link, this will be the startup page. There's a lot of useful information underneath. I'm gonna talk about some trigger points here. But on the lower left side are also the names of my colleagues. Remotely, I would like to introduce Annie Chang. Rod Bogart is the other ACES Vice Chair. When we moved from film to digital, we didn't replace the 35mm film standard. We did not introduce new picture standards. The containers didn't change. The XLSC standards best practice didn't change. And no archiving standards were reinvented or introduced. The problem would be every production reinvents workflows. So my day job is I work at eFilm, as Jim already said, a deluxe company, and I can really tell we see this every day. Every movie gets like reinvented. All the workflows from the beginning to end gets discussed in new ways. HDR came along, and there is a new wide gamut, high dynamic range standard coming up. The archiving standard, we talked about it already. So a normal production, let's say, since they are all different, but let's say normal would be that we capture, we produce dailies, we do the editing, somebody is doing VFX work, and at the end we do finishing. On my monitors in this image, I show the same look and feel on every monitor, which is the most difficult thing, that the DP on set already sees a picture which then gets reproduced in dailies or reproduced in editing, and if the DP with a very good eye, with a very good color memory comes 1 year later into the finishing suite, he theoretically would like to see the same image he saw on set. Calibration is very difficult and imaging science is very difficult. So time goes by. If you shoot in spring, your DI might be in winter or in the next spring, so we have to find a tool which helps us to transfer metadata over time, not only from set to dailies. And then we need to cover distance as well, time and distance. While you might film in Africa, you might then finish in the United States. Tools and monitors might be calibrated different. Metadata might be treated different. And then there are different color correctors. Every color corrector works slightly different, while lookup tables or the ASC CDL might be able to translate certain things, but we missed the common standard between these different color correctors. They are all the greatest and the best, and if you just see it as an island, it might work very well, but if you during dailies use one tool and in the DI use another tool, you really have difficulties to get the same look and feel out of it if you want to use the complete package of metadata given in every tool. So that's an ACES workflow diagram which I like. It explains easiest what the ACES benefits are. You use different cameras on the left side, and most of the time it's not a creative intent to use different cameras on set. You might use a smaller one on a drone. You might use a crash cam in a car which explodes. You might use your brand new Panasonic cameras 4K for the main footage, but the creative intent should be everything should look the same. So ACES provides these IDTs, which are available in every color corrector and gives you the same result, same on the output. Of course, we all want to land in digital cinema, we all want to land in the theater, but we also want to make a streaming version and a television version and the iPad version. And there again, the creative intent is that the superhero suit, the grass, the sky, that everything has the same look and feel again. We want to have a consistent look through all the deliverables and all the viewing devices on the other end. So ACES is not a software application you can download and run. It's not a workflow. It's not a look. What ACES is, it is a suite of encoding specifications. It is a transform divisions and guidelines, metadata definitions, archiving ready image data, and developer tools. So it's basically, you could call it open source code, which you can download from the ACES website. And every tool manufacturer is encouraged to use it as it is. We then do different under the hood tests in between. Mainly when it comes up that NAB or IBC comes up, we shoot all cameras and on the show floor and send the pictures through all color correctors on the show floor and see what comes out on the other side and give recommendation back to the vendors. ACES was introduced in December 2014, and at NAB 2015 in April it kicked in and every vendor had it, and our results looked surprising, trying to use the most positive word out of it. But now in 2017 we did another test during NAB and we are further ahead than everybody would have thought. This is always ACES version 1. And any Rod and I work on ACES version 2 at the moment to put the final touch on it. Benefit of ACES is the color gamut and color space. We use the EXR format. On the right side, you see the CIE chart, the horseshoe, and you see the ACES archiving format. That's the red triangle, AP0. That's the archiving format. The working space is AP1. The next smaller triangle, and then you see Rec 2020 inside of these two, DCI P3, and the yellow one is Rec 709. So the most important one is the AP0, so we archive the signal in a way that it's really future-proof. The horseshoe CIE is what the human visual system can see, and we prove that we archive more than humans can see, which should make it very future-proof. Key benefits of ACES: the maximum fidelity, enables consistent color production after everybody has implemented it in the same way, puts an end to the snowflake workflow, because we can now really say, just do ACES. And if you are in a pre-production meeting and the camera team, the DIT uses ACES, the VFX super and the VFX vendor use ACES, the DI facility, if they all use it in the right way, we just have to say one thing: use ACES. Yeah. And because of this, we can then reproduce the grades. And we also have the ODTs ready for the HDR standards, the high dynamic range deliverables we have to deliver. And then because of this white color gamut doing archiving, the AP0, we have a great archiving master. We also work with SEMTI at the moment on an implementation of ACES into the IMF archiving format, which is very trendy to studios and broadcasters at the moment. And here I have a list of companies who did implement the ACES algorithms. There is a logo program, how we call it. So a vendor implements the ACES way of working with all the tools, the bells and whistles, and the academy then has a certain way of proving the concept that it's done right. So these are the vendors who are on board, and yeah, I think we have them all covered, all the high-end vendors. Please, if you know somebody who is not on board with, put in a good word in for us. Yeah? And the proof that they did follow the logo program, they are now allowed to use this ACES logo. It's not allowed to use it on the product, so you cannot see it on the camera body or on the color corrector's control panel, but they use it in their documentation. That's again a link to the ACES Central webpage, where you can get a lot of information. There's a GitHub link, a link to GitHub, where all this open source code is available from. Thank you very much. Yeah.